All right, buckle up, everybody, because we are about to take a deep dive into the world of fat burning.
Oh, yeah.
You have given us a ton of videos by Dr. Berg on weight loss, and I am so excited to unpack it all, see what we can learn.
It looks like Dr. Berg really challenges the traditional view of like calories in, calories out.
Oh, okay.
He's really focused on hormones, especially insulin,
Interesting.
saying that they're more important for losing fat than just like restricting calories.
You know, that is interesting because I have always been told to focus on calorie deficit for weight loss.
Right.
So how do hormones actually fit into all of this?
Well, the way Dr. Berg explains it is that all the different macronutrients, your proteins, your fats, your carbs, they all affect our hormones in different ways.
Right.
And these different hormonal responses
Yeah.
really determine whether we store fat or burn it.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit.
Sure.
Can you kind of elaborate on how these different macros affect our hormones? Especially when it comes to burning fat.
Yeah, let's start with protein.
Okay.
So we always hear that protein is super important for weight loss.
Right.
But Dr. Berg is saying that if you have too much protein,
Okay.
it can actually make your body produce more insulin.
Oh.
We'll talk more about this later, but insulin is like the main hormone that tells our bodies to store fat.
That's kind of counterintuitive to what I have always thought.
It is.
Can you explain how protein can actually lead to storing more fat?
Yeah, so when we eat protein, our body breaks it down into amino acids.
Okay.
Some of those amino acids can actually be turned into glucose,
Interesting.
and that process is called gluconeogenesis.
Okay.
Yeah, so this increase in glucose basically triggers your body to release insulin
Got it.
to help the cells absorb all that glucose, either for energy or for storage.
Okay.
So if you're eating way more protein than your body can use,
Right.
it can cause your insulin to be too high,
Uh-huh.
which could slow down your fat-burning progress.
I see. So it's not just about the amount of protein,
No.
but finding that right balance.
Right.
So you don't get those insulin spikes.
Exactly.
Okay. What about carbohydrates?
Yeah.
How do they affect insulin and fat burning?
So carbs have the biggest impact on insulin levels
Okay.
because when we eat carbs, they break down into glucose,
Uh-huh.
which goes right into our bloodstream.
Right.
That spike in blood sugar
Yeah.
causes the body to release a bunch of insulin
Okay.
to try and clear out all that glucose from our blood.
So the more carbs we eat, the bigger the insulin spike.
Exactly.
Sense.
And if this is happening all the time,
Right.
it can lead to something called insulin resistance,
Okay.
which basically means your cells stop responding to insulin as well as they should.
Got it.
So your body has to make even more insulin
Wow.
to manage your blood sugar.
Okay.
And that's when you run into problems because if your insulin is always high,
Right.
it makes it much harder to burn fat.
So insulin resistance is kind of like this vicious cycle that just makes it harder to lose weight.
Yeah, it's a huge obstacle for a lot of people.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, we've also talked about how important fat is for our body.
Hmm.
Can you remind me about that?
Yeah, so we tend to think of fat as just being for insulation.
Right.
But what Dr. Berg says is that fat is actually a backup fuel source.
Okay.
So when we run out of the easy energy from glucose,
Right.
our body can turn to fat.
Got it.
So it's actually really important for survival.
It's like our body's emergency reserve.
Exactly.
Ready to go when we need it.
Yep, and that's where this whole idea of keto adaptation comes in.
Keto adaptation, I have heard of that. It's
Yeah.
basically switching from burning sugar as our main fuel to burning fat, right?
That's the idea.
Okay.
When you cut down on carbs a lot,
Mm-hmm.
your body has to find another way to get energy.
Right.
So it starts burning fat for fuel,
Okay.
and that's keto adaptation.
So to get into that fat burning mode, we have to limit our carbs
Yeah.
and let our bodies use those fat stores.
Exactly.
How long does it usually take for the body to adapt like that?
Dr. Berg says it can take up to 2 weeks to fully switch from sugar burning to fat burning.
Wow, that's a while.
Yeah. And during that time, people can feel tired, have headaches, what some people call the keto flu.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as your body gets used to it, those symptoms usually go away.
So that's why the first few days of a low-carb diet can be so rough.
Exactly.
Your body is literally changing how it works.
Yep.
So how does insulin play into this whole adaptation process?
So like we've been talking about, insulin tells your body to store fat.
Right.
When you cut back on carbs, you lower your insulin levels,
Okay.
which makes it easier for your body to use its stored fat.
So lowering your insulin is like the key to unlocking your body's fat-burning potential.
Exactly. And Dr. Berg says that even a little bit of sugar can mess up that process.
Really, how can such a small amount of sugar have that big of an impact?
Well, he says that even something like half a glass of juice
Wow.
can spike your insulin
Really?
and stop you from burning fat for like 48 hours,
Wow.
especially if your insulin sensitivity is already off.
That is surprising.
Yeah.
It really shows you how important it is to understand how food affects our hormones and ultimately how well we can burn fat.
Absolutely.
So if managing insulin is so important, what are some practical strategies to do that?
So one thing Dr. Berg recommends is intermittent fasting.
Okay.
Basically, you're eating less often,
Right.
which helps to keep those insulin spikes under control.
Got it.
Gives your body more time to use its fat stores.
That makes sense, but I've always heard you should eat frequent small meals throughout the day.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say.
So how does that fit with what we're learning here?
That's a really good question. And it shows you how some of the traditional weight loss advice might not actually line up with the science of how our hormones work.
Okay.
Intermittent fasting challenges that idea
Right.
by showing that sometimes it's better to go longer periods without food
Got it.
to help you lose fat.
So it's not just about eating less.
Right.
It's about timing your meals strategically.
Exactly.
To manage those hormone changes.
Yep.
That makes a lot of sense. And that brings us to exercise.
Yeah.
Which Dr. Berg is also a big advocate for.
Yeah, definitely. He really likes high-intensity interval training, or HIIT.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard that HIIT workouts are pretty intense.
They are challenging.
So how do they help you burn fat?
So HIIT workouts are short bursts of really hard exercise,
Okay.
followed by short rest periods.
Got it.
And that kind of training triggers your body to release growth hormone, which helps build muscle and burn fat.
Okay.
And it also releases glucagon, which is another hormone that helps burn fat.
So you get a double dose of fat-burning hormones with HIIT.
You could say that.
I like.
Yeah. HIIT is a really good way to boost your metabolism and help your body burn more fat.
Wow, I'm starting to see how all of these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
Managing insulin, strategic fasting, intense workouts to trigger those fat-burning hormones.
Exactly.
I'm guessing recovery is important in all of this too.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Dr. Berg emphasizes how important it is to get enough sleep and manage your stress levels
Okay.
to help your body recover and burn fat effectively.
This is all really interesting, and I feel like we are just scratching the surface here. Let's take a minute to kind of process everything.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and delve deeper into this whole idea of insulin resistance.
That's good.
And Dr. Berg's emphasis on this holistic approach to weight loss.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so we are back and ready to go even deeper into this fat-burning journey.
Yeah.
We've laid some groundwork understanding how crucial these hormones are,
Right.
especially that insulin. Now, I remember you mentioned insulin resistance before, and from what I'm seeing in these Dr. Berg videos, it seems like this could be a major roadblock for people who are trying to lose weight.
It definitely can be.
Okay.
So insulin resistance basically means your cells aren't responding to insulin the way they should,
Gotcha.
which means your blood sugar is going to be higher. And it also creates this like hormonal environment
Okay.
that makes your body store fat.
So even if someone is like really watching their calories
Yeah.
and they are exercising regularly, could they still be struggling because of insulin resistance?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It's like if you're trying to turn a key
Oh.
and a rusty lock,
Okay.
the key's there, that's the insulin.
Right.
But it can't actually unlock the door, which are your cells, to let the glucose in.
Okay.
So all that glucose just builds up in your bloodstream.
Got it.
And it makes the problem even worse.
That's a really good analogy.
Thanks.
So how would you even know if you are dealing with insulin resistance?
Yeah.
What are some signs that you could look out for?
Well, one of the biggest ones is belly fat.
Oh.
Even if you aren't overweight, it's a sign that you might be storing fat around your organs,
Okay.
which is definitely linked to insulin resistance.
So belly fat is a red flag.
Definitely. Another common one is really strong sugar cravings.
Okay.
So because your cells aren't responding to insulin properly,
Right.
your body isn't using glucose for energy the way it should.
Right.
So you end up feeling hungry all the time.
I see.
And you crave sugar for that quick energy boost.
It's like your body is constantly screaming for fuel,
Yeah.
but it can't access the energy it needs.
Exactly.
Real.
Are there any other symptoms?
Yeah. So you might also experience brain fog.
Okay.
Or you might not feel satisfied after you eat a meal. Or you might even have to pee more often, especially at night.
Interesting.
Yeah, these are all potential signs of insulin resistance.
Wow. It's kind of crazy to think that there are probably so many people
I know.
who are struggling with this and they don't even realize it.
Right. They just think they have like a slow metabolism. Right. Or no willpower. Or something like that.
Exactly.
So it's super important to understand how these hormones are actually working.
Yeah.
And how they could be affecting our weight.
It's not just about willpower or calories.
Right.
It's about figuring out those hormonal imbalances that are making you store fat.
That brings us back to what Dr. Berg was saying about a more holistic approach to weight loss.
Yeah.
It's not just about cutting calories or going to the gym.
Right.
It's about creating that internal environment
Yeah.
that lets your hormones work the way they are supposed to.
Exactly.
So how do we even start to create this healthy internal environment?
Well, one of the things that Dr. Berg really stresses
Yeah.
is focusing on nutrient-dense foods.
Okay.
He says to eat organic, whole foods
Right.
as much as you can
Okay.
to give your body the nutrients it needs.
Yeah.
He actually has this great quote. He says,
Wasn't it?
your food is only as healthy as the soil it grows on.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, it makes you think.
It does.
You know, our bodies can't thrive off of just processed foods
Yeah.
that have no nutrients.
Right.
It's like trying to build a house with, like, cardboard.
Right.
It's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's not going to be strong.
Exactly.
So it's not just about what we eat,
Right.
but also our lifestyle.
Yeah, so like stress.
Okay.
When you're stressed out all the time, your body makes more cortisol.
Mm-hmm.
And that can make insulin resistance worse.
Right.
And it can lead to weight gain.
I feel like stress is at the root of so many health problems these days.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just this constant thing
Yeah, it's always there.
that throws our bodies off balance.
Exactly.
So that's why Dr. Berg says we need to find ways to manage stress,
Yeah.
like deep breathing, meditation,
Yeah.
spending time in nature,
All of that.
just to calm down,
Yeah.
lower that stress level,
It's so important for your hormones.
and your overall well-being. So we've talked about nutrition, stress management.
Yeah.
What about sleep? Isn't that important too?
So sleep is huge.
Okay.
When you don't get enough sleep,
Right.
your body makes more cortisol, which we know is bad for insulin resistance.
Mm-hmm. Makes you gain weight.
Exactly.
And sleep is when your body repairs itself.
Yes.
Okay.
It balances those hormones out. It's like
Oh.
hitting the reset button.
So important.
It's essential.
I know when I don't get enough sleep,
Yeah.
I'm foggy, I'm hungry all the time.
Right.
I just feel off.
I totally get it.
It's clear that getting enough sleep is just as important
Totally.
as what we eat and how much we exercise.
It's all connected.
It really is. Okay.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
but there's one thing we haven't really talked about yet.
What's that?
Protein.
Ah, yes.
We touched on how it can be good or bad for fat burning, depending on how much you eat.
Mm-hmm.
It seems a little contradictory.
It can be.
So what does Dr. Berg say about protein?
So he acknowledges that protein is super important
Okay.
for building and repairing tissues.
Right.
But he also warns against having too much protein.
Interesting.
He says that when you eat more protein than your body can actually use,
Okay.
it can put a lot of stress on your liver,
Oh, wow.
which can lead to fatty liver disease.
I never thought about protein affecting the liver like that.
Yeah, it's something to think about.
Can you explain that a little more?
Sure, so your liver,
Mm-hmm.
it filters toxins from your blood,
Okay.
it processes nutrients,
Mm-hmm.
produces bile for digestion.
Wow, it does a lot.
Right. It's a busy organ.
So when we eat too much protein,
Yeah,
it has to work extra hard
exactly.
to process it all.
And that can cause a buildup of waste products
Gotcha.
and eventually lead to problems like fatty liver.
So it's not just about how much protein we eat,
Yeah,
but also how much our liver can handle.
exactly. It's about finding that balance.
Finding that sweet spot. This brings up a good point.
What's that?
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to weight loss.
Definitely not.
What worked for one person
Right.
might not work for someone else.
Everyone's different.
So we really have to pay attention to our individual needs and how our bodies respond.
Absolutely.
So how do we know what the right approach is for us?
It's all about listening to your body.
Okay, what does that mean?
Pay attention to things like your energy levels, when you're hungry,
Okay.
what kind of cravings you're having,
Yeah.
how well you're sleeping,
Right.
even your mood.
Okay.
All of these things can tell you a lot about how your body's reacting
Gotcha.
to what you're eating and your lifestyle choices.
So it's about paying attention to those little cues.
Yeah.
Really tuning in to what our bodies are telling us.
Exactly. And keeping a journal can be really helpful for that.
Okay.
You can track your food, your exercise, your sleep, how you're feeling.
Got it.
And you'll start to see patterns.
Okay.
And figure out what works best for you.
It's like becoming a scientist of your own body.
Exactly.
I like that.
It takes the pressure off.
Right.
You don't have to follow some strict diet plan.
Right.
You can try things out, see what happens, and make adjustments.
So it's all about personalizing it.
Exactly.
That's what I'm getting from Dr. Berg's approach.
Yeah.
It's not about deprivation or following a bunch of rules.
Right.
It's about understanding how your body works and making choices that support your own needs and goals.
I think that's a great way to sum it up.
Wow, this has been so insightful.
I agree.
We've covered a ton of information.
We have.
Unpacked a lot from these Dr. Berg videos.
Definitely.
Let's take a moment,
Okay.
digest everything.
Yeah.
Then we'll come back for our final wrap-up.
Sounds good.
We'll bring it all together and leave our listener with some things to think about.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so we're back for our final deep dive here into the world of fat burning. We have really explored some complex ideas.
Yeah, we have.
But what really stands out to me is how everything is so interconnected. It's
Right.
like all these different things, the
Right.
hormones, what we eat, our lifestyle choices,
It all matters.
they all play a role in how well our bodies can actually burn fat.
Absolutely. It really is like a delicate balance.
Right. It's like you need all the pieces of the puzzle to fit together.
Exactly.
So let's kind of recap for our listener.
Okay.
What are the key takeaways here? The things they can actually start doing to improve their fat burning.
So the first thing
Okay.
is to stop just counting calories
Yeah.
and start focusing on those hormones,
Okay.
especially insulin.
Right.
Remember, insulin is basically controlling whether your body stores fat or burns it.
And to keep those insulin levels in check, we need to cut back on the carbs.
Right, especially those refined grains and sugars
Okay.
that cause those blood sugar spikes.
And don't forget about all the hidden sugars
Oh, yeah, for sure.
that are in so many processed foods and drinks.
You really have to read those labels carefully.
Absolutely.
You got to know what you're putting into your body.
It makes a huge difference.
We also talked about how too much protein can affect insulin production.
Right. So it's all about finding the right amount of protein for you.
It's about quality over quantity.
Definitely.
Choosing those good sources of protein.
Yeah, like grass-fed beef,
Okay.
organic chicken,
Right.
wild-caught fish.
Those are all great.
Yeah, those are the best.
And we can't forget about healthy fats.
Oh, no, those are important.
They help us feel full,
Right.
which is so important.
So you don't get those crazy cravings.
Exactly. Keeps you on track.
Yeah, helps you stay focused on your goals.
Things like avocados, nuts and seeds,
Yeah,
olive oil.
all great sources of healthy fats.
We can include those in a balanced fat-burning diet.
Exactly.
And then we talked about intermittent fasting
Yeah,
as a way to control those insulin levels.
right. Gives your body that break from food.
So it can start burning fat for fuel.
And it doesn't have to be super complicated.
No, not at all.
Just making those small adjustments to your eating patterns.
Like pushing back breakfast a little.
Right.
Or skipping a snack.
Can make a big difference.
It really can.
It's interesting how these little tweaks
Yeah.
can have such a big impact on our hormones
They really can.
and how our metabolism works.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It is. And, throughout our discussion, we've really been talking about being mindful,
Yeah, that's so important.
paying attention to what we eat, when we eat,
Right.
and how our bodies are responding.
It's about tuning into your body's signals.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes Dr. Berg's approach so interesting. It really gives you that power
Right.
to understand how your body works
Exactly.
and make choices that support your health.
It's not about following someone else's rules.
It's about figuring out what works best for you.
Absolutely. It's a personalized approach.
I love that.
Yeah, it's all about finding what works for your unique body.
So true. And remember, weight loss,
Yeah.
it's a journey, not a destination.
You'll have ups and downs along the way.
But it's about learning from those experiences, making adjustments as needed.
And staying positive.
Staying positive is so important.
It really is.
It's all about that mindset.
It's all connected.
So as we wrap up this incredible deep dive,
Yeah.
what final message would you give to our listeners as they start their own fat-burning adventures?
Remember that real weight loss is about getting healthy,
Okay.
not just physically,
Yeah.
but mentally too.
So important.
So ask yourself,
Okay.
what small change can I make today
Yeah.
to improve my health and well-being?
Those little things.
Maybe it's swapping out that sugary breakfast
Right.
for something with more protein,
Okay.
Or maybe it's going for a quick walk each day.
Or taking a few minutes to just breathe.
Yeah, just relax and de-stress.
Prioritize sleep.
Sleep is so important.
It really is. Those are all great ideas.
They seem small,
Yeah.
but they can make a big difference.
Remember, those small changes can have a ripple effect.
Yeah, they add up over time.
This deep dive is just the beginning.
It is.
Keep exploring, keep experimenting.
Keep learning.
And most importantly, keep believing in your body's ability to heal and thrive.
It's an amazing machine.
It is. Until next time, happy fat burning, everyone.